in this existential war is the security of our security and unity. We have to stand together as one person against a cruel enemy who wants to destroy all of us. All of us, without any exception, people on the left and the right, the religious and the secular, Jews and non-Jews. We discovered this not just on October 7th, but through the entire length of the war. And again, we've learned this in this horrific massacre, the execution in cold blood of 6 of our hostages, Carmel Gat, Eden Yerushalmi, Hirsch Goldberg Polin, Sasha Lubanov, Almog Sarusi, and First Sergeant Oren Danino. May God revenge their blood. I've talked on the phone with several of the families of late. Have done that, and during the conversation, I'm looking back. I'm looking at the pictures, the photographs of these pure souls, and my heart and the heart of the nation is broken into segments, into fragments. You see the happiness, you hear their lives stories, the happiness that they had, and all this light was destroyed, was all by a hand of monsters. I told the families, and I repeat this again this evening, I apologize to you that we have not been able to bring them back alive. We were close, but we were not successful. And I repeat again this evening, Israel will not act as if nothing has happened during this massacre. Hamas will pay a very heavy price for this. The war against the axis of evil, and this specific one, against Hamas, and also in the north, we have set for ourselves 4 goals: to destroy Hamas, eliminate it, bring back all our hostages, to assure that other will no longer be a threat to Israel, and to bring back to the north our residents in security. 3 of these targets pass through one place, the Philadelphi line. This is the oxygen for Hamas. And I want to take a few minutes to the significance of what is this line, the Philadelphia line? What's the significance to Israel's security, to assure that we're not going to have another 7 October, another 7 October, and another October 7, as Hamas has promised to do. I want to show you, first of all, what we had over the years until we left. This is Egypt. Israel is here. You see the Gaza Strip. The distance to Tel Aviv is not that far, and it's just meters to the villages near it. From to Eilat, this was an international border of Israel, from the sea to Eilat. Please enlarge it. If you look at this enlarged, you see all this. It's all in we are controlled. Ashkelon, Sderot, the kibbutzim, Kerem Shalom, and here on the bottom, Tzir Philadelphia, the Philadelphia line. It's all in our control. Now, if what happened is when we left Gaza, whatever the lines remained, the borders. They tried various. You remember the Marmara flotilla and others, but the land border, nothing came through. But the minute we left the Gaza Strip back then and left the Philadelphia line, it's actually the border between Gaza Strip and Israel. The minute we left it, we had no blockage from massive insertion of war material, machines to manufacture weapons, all by Iran financing it and planning it. And all these things you see here came in through the Philadelphia Strip line and became a huge threat because there was no blockage there. That's what happened. And therefore, the question, and I'm being asked, if it was so bad, why didn't you conquer it? Why didn't you conquer it? And the answer is that we all the time tried to attack it, especially after we left the Gaza Strip. It continued after the Morsi regime, through Mubarak and always through, they came in with weapons through the Philadelphia line. There were three operations in which we fought. Three of them I was in charge of as Prime Minister. We killed Jabber and thousands of terrorists, but there was no legitimacy as far as international arena is concerned. There wasn't international or even national agreement to do that. Now, the importance, I said this 20 years ago already. Sharon declared in 2003 that we get out of Gaza. 4 months later, on 26th of March 2004, I described what our demands, the minimal demands. The first is controlling all the lines for crossing into Gaza by air, land, or sea. Philadelphia line that separates with Egypt will not be. If we're going to, I said, if we're going to give up on controlling the line between Egypt and Gaza, we'll have when I resigned from the government, I told the Prime Minister Sharon a letter of resignation. As a minimum, I demanded that the Philadelphia line should remain in our hands. It's nothing new. It was clear that if we don't have this line, there's going to be rearmament in there. We're going to be creating a monster. The axis of evil needs the Philadelphia line for the same reason, and for that same reason, we must control it. Hamas insists that we should not be there, and for this reason, I insist that we will stay there. The presence on the Philadelphia line is important strategically and nationally. The world we have to accept the fact that we are there. What's wrong? People tell me, we leave for 42 days and come back. And we were already in this movie before. We did this when we left them. They said, the first missile will go back, comes in, we'll go back and reconquer it. And we'll have overwhelming international support. Well, they fired thousands of missiles, and there was no international support. Now, when we did this, they said, "What's the first missile that flies into? We're going to go into after 2003. We'll go in. 20 years passed, and we did not go back in. So whoever says there's not a problem to go back in, there is a problem, and how? And how there will be a problem? It's not easy to do that. It's not a question of tactical or military. It's a matter of huge. The whole world will exert tremendous political force not to go back once we go out, not to go back in. I tell you how hard it was. I withstood this pressure. It was how hard for us to get into Rafiach. Look what we paid for it. We had huge pressure on us not to go to the ICC a day or two before the decision. They knew we were going to make the decision. We had an embargo of weapons. We paid with lives of our soldiers. But this is nothing compared to what we're going to have against us if we get out, and everybody knows the importance of this. We want us to end the war. That's what they all want. That we should end the war. And this line is different from all the other lines. It's central. It decides our entire future. Its importance is huge for us. But for the world, who wants to end the war, the last thing they want is to go back. They're going to have overwhelming force on it. The UN, and I don't want to go into details. I know what's going to happen. Why should we get into this trap? They tell us it's possible. I'm telling you that this will not bring the hostages back. On the contrary, I want to tell you, when we got into Philadelphi, only then we sensed that we felt a difference. For long months after the first transaction, Hamas didn't move a bit. You must declare in advance end of the war and to leave the Gaza Strip, and in effect let us control Gaza again, Hamas. The first crack, this doesn't bring release of the hostages, but the first crack in this, when we got into a film, we controlled Philadelphia line and the Rafiach gate, and then suddenly Hamas started to talk about us. Then they moved backward because they thought Iran will save them, or Hezbollah will come and help them, save them. Now, they're hoping that international pressure or internal Israeli pressure will affect it. But the first change for a possible was because we took control of the Philadelphia line. Once we get out of it, we will not be able to go back in. I said we're not going for because I didn't say that we're going to be there 42 years. I did not say that. I know that if we go out, we may not go out. Because, when we left it last time, we didn't come back for 20 years. After we caught them in the neck, which can give us back the hostages. And also it's possible for them to transfer. They can transfer them. They can bring them from our hostages to the Sinai and elsewhere. They disappear. They can end up showing up in Iran. Absolutely not. After we got all of this, we're not going to get ourselves into a trap. It's not a technical military. It's a strategic governmental issue. People thought we can get out of this. We can get out of Lebanon. We can go back to out of Gaza. We can always go back. You should be more careful and make estimations like that and consider all the components involved in this. Unfortunately, despite I and all of us are committed at all costs to have a deal. We have not seen something similar from Hamas. We agreed to the 31 May ruling that Biden gave, and we agreed. This was called the final bridging proposal. It was the final bridging on the 16th of August. We agreed to it. Hamas refused the first and the second proposal. Anchi Amar, you said yesterday, withdrawal from all of Gaza Strip, end of the war, period. They moved a little bit. The minute they think there is some weakness on our part or some pressure that will break us, they turn back in their demands. Therefore, we will not move out. The importance of the Philadelphi line is a major one, both for bringing the hostages and also to assure that Hamas will be destroyed and Gaza will not be back as a threat for us. And therefore, we clarify that this is our position, but from out of our own people, we've heard voices from the cabinet, in the cabinet, people in the ministers in the government said, "There's no, even though we decided the contrary, no problem. We can get out of and leave the Philadelphia." And so I had to bring this officially to the cabinet, and to set this in stone, and to understand that there are things that we will not compromise on. I'm flexible where I can be. I'm not insistent on being inflexible where I can be flexible, and vice versa. And on this, all of us should be insistent. Otherwise, we're going to have the disaster we've had already. The axis of evil needs the Philadelphia line. We need to hold it. And therefore, after the cabinet has reached its decision, I was astounded. I was astounded because I heard from amongst us people who say, that we can get out. But when was this said that we can get out? After they murdered six of our hostages in cold blood? To say that after? What message does this send to Hamas? What message does it send? You'll murder hostages and you'll will give in. Every minister not can but must tell what he thinks. Everybody knows the truth. I encourage everyone to provide their opinions. On the contrary, but the minute a decision was made, it is a requirement. As membership in the cabinet is not things as you wish. It requires the message that we will change the decision of the cabinet, a strategic, essential one, under pressure, which is the massacre of our hostages. It's an encouragement for more murders. It will simply not happen. Hamas naturally thinks that it will happen, as long as it sees this unity amongst us. By the way, it's not new. It sees Hamas. He uses this tactic for a year. Please run this. Look at this. Please go back one. That's what we want to happen. The IDF will remain here and will block. They want us from all of the Gaza Strip. Hamas uses that of disunify us, to weaken us, and also to vanquish us. How does he do it? Is it a document was found in the Hamas senior people were found, our soldiers found it. By the way, they said it was in noir. We can't guarantee, but it is senior Hamas people. Here's the original document in Arabic. Here is its translation. To increase the pictures and of the hostages because of the psychological pressure that they create. To do everything to bring psychological pressure on Gallant, to continue the line. Netanyahu is responsible for everything that happened, to destroy the narrative as if the land maneuvers help the return of the passages. That's word for word a translation of the Arabic. That's the strategy of Hamas. It wants to disunify us. It builds on the fact that we'll have disunity. He thinks that most of the nation will follow, but Hamas is mistaken. I said back then, when there was the dispute about people who said they will not serve in the military, I said, I thought it was horrific. Our enemies gave them a sense that we are weak, but the day came we will all fight together. Same thing. This is the same thing. That we will agree to things that are major for our existence, to cause us to have disputes among. I can stand the pressures, and I will not submit to this, and our nation will not, because most of the public knows what's going on. It doesn't matter what you see on some of the stations on TV. I tell Sinwar, you can forget about it. It will not happen. We have to be united for our existential interest. We have to act together. So the other side, as it understood as far as the end of the, here too we are committed. We will not give in on things that are essential. By the way, on things that are not essential, I've given a very wide flexibility during the course of the year and now too. But things that are existential, we are together. And the moment Hamas will understand that, the minute it understands it, there will be a deal. The minute it understands it, will also assure our existence and our future. We'll stand together, we'll fight together, and together, God willing, we will win. Questions? Can we rely on Egypt as far as the Gaza Strip is concerned? And what about Biden? The day after, it should be after Hamas, and the day after, we have to control the places, the lines. If there's going to be a day will come, and there'll be another body that will take care of it, by all means. But the moment we have to deal with it, with the security, and to prevent actions that will bring more terror, more rapes, more threats, more massacres. This must happen. I think there's a big question that how we're going to destroy Hamas. I've said it several months ago. Now people understand that. We will destroy Hamas. But we still have to not allow it to have governmental control. And we're working now on a big part of this humanitarian help, which is part of the work. Regarding what Biden had said, I don't know exactly what he said. I want to state the facts. Again, 27th of April, Blinken mentioned, that's what he said, a suggestion, a very, very extraordinary, generous offer by Israel. On the 31st of May, as I just said, Israel agreed to the lines that Biden's offered, and Hamas refused it. 16th of August, Israel agreed. The final bridging line, Hamas refused. 19th of August, Blinken said, Israel agreed to the American offer. Now Hamas has to do so. On the 28th of August, the CIA deputy chief said Israel showed seriousness in the negotiations. Now it's a turn of Hamas. This 5 days ago. What happened these 5 days? One thing happened. They murdered in cold blood, 6 of our hostages. So after this horrific murder, I don't think anyone serious will come and say, now you're not serious, do more, go back and give more offers. I can't imagine. And I don't believe Biden would have said anything like that. When will the residents in the north of Israel go back to their homes? I cannot give you a timetable. It would be a terrible mistake to do that. We're in a big fight against Hezbollah and the axis of evil. We can't accept such a situation. I was in Kibbutz Sasa in the north, and I spoke of the commanders in the north and some of the reservists some of them are residents there, and said to me, we'll remain here, but we have to bring the others. And they're absolutely correct. And I told them, I'm not going to convince anyone of this. In the north, in the south also, there are people who return to the south not because we try to convince them, because we changed the security situation down south. What happened? We changed the reality. We have control of Philadelphia and of the Strip, of the Gaza Strip. So it's not a matter of trying to convince the residents to come back, but rather we have to change the security situation. And the last action, in which we destroyed thousands of rockets of Hezbollah, that they thought they'll have a surprise attack. We did a surprise attack. These were rockets that were aimed at the Galil, the north of Israel. All of those, we destroyed them. All of them. It's not the end either. The end will be, we'll change the security situation there as we have done in the south. And the test is before us. It's possible. I would be glad if you could do it in a peaceful manner. If it will not happen, then it will happen in a different manner. Our plans, you will forgive me, but I'm not going to divulge here. Channel 13. The various security heads in the Israel government said that getting out of the Philadelphia line, we can get out of it temporarily, and you say no. Should we not listen to them as well? And do you feel? I feel great sadness. It's terrible. We were so close. It didn't happen. Those murders didn't happen. Hamas doesn't want a deal. And it came closer to a deal because we took the Philadelphia line. Everyone said we can get out of Gaza 20 years ago, and the first rocket out of Gaza 20 years ago, we'll go back in. We never did. We can get out of Lebanon, and we could. First rocket will be lobbed at Israel. We'll go back in. All the security forces, security heads said that we could go back always. Oslo said it's going to be Oslo. It's going to bring us peace, the Oslo agreement. It didn't exactly happen. So forgive me. We have to be a little more modest about this. The problem is not the military ability, the tactical force. What's the governmental framework which would be so great? You end up in a dead-end street. And we will not get back the citizens, the hostages, and also have huge strategic problems as well. We have a responsibility to our security and also for our future generations, for the hostages. but not just for me, but also members of the cabinet. They decided that we have a government that has, we are a state that has a government, and the main decisions are made there. But God help us if it were not so. There he said that having a cabinet make a decision about the hostages it ties our hands. You had agreed to have. How many questions do you have? In Rad Hamas, you said you'll pay a heavy. Hamas will pay a heavy price for killing the 6. Could you clarify what the heavy price that Hamas will pay for this? I did not mean they will not destroy Hamas. I said we will exact over time. We will exact a very heavy price. We're working on it. I'm not going to tell you what the price will. When we're going to go back, I want to leave the surprise element. When I said we'll have a chizbah for the 12 children, these Druzing, the wonderful Druze children there, I said we'll talk. We didn't talk. We didn't act. I prefer to speak less. That's what we'll do. It doesn't mean that we're not going to destroy Hamas. Regarding Ayodhya, it's really an outrage that the censor allows the cabinet decisions are coming. There should be a paragraph law that the stuff cannot be leaked out of there should be a law, because it's absurd situation. We are arming Hamas by giving them information, our enemies in Iran also, about internal information of decisions in the cabinet. But I'm not going to go into decisions about this. I'll tell you what was said is the opposite of what you heard. The only way that we're going to get our hostages back is Hamas to understand that we're not going to take our foot over it from their neck. We're going to we're not going to give in. Hamas will have to understand it. We're not going to end this war. It will understand it. Once they understand, then Hamas will give in, not beforehand. And therefore, I think it's just the opposite. This serves both release of the hostages and gaining all the other goals of the war. You had 2 more questions. Yes. We talk about. By the way, the 42-day break, cease secession. I'm willing. It's really an outrage that people say that. No one is more committed to release the hostages and fight more for them than I. And I also served. So please, let no one teach me a lesson about such actions. And also to give in after they massacred us? Absolutely not. Now, the agreement that I agreed to, the proposal, there was a stage 1 of 42 days. We can go back to it. If there were no solution to the negotiations, we insisted on that. And if a solution for a longer term or a permanent in the Gaza Strip that someone else can handle the security aspect, by all means. I don't see it on the horizon, but if such a thing were to happen, by all means. You asked a third about. Look, you You're trying to come out of me something that I did not say. We're talking about the first stage. The second stage is still ahead of us. Everyone can speculate about his hopes. I wish there were some force that will go into Gaza Strip and take care of it. If the question is, if there were to be such a thing, I don't see it. When the Messiah comes, by all means. Regarding about have fewer, why were you willing to have fewer soldiers in Israel? It's very simple. We have in the Philadelphi line 1.5 brigades. When you go out, where did you serve in the military? You can. I was in the military. You weren't, and I know what it is to have a force, such a force, in a thin strip like that. What's important that from the sea to Kerem Shalom, we don't have to do every yard. We have to be in several points that are at some distance from each other, with ability to patrol the areas between. That's necessary, both as far as security against the terrorists, and also to protect our forces, and also to make sure that no one also taking hostages on the ground. I don't think we can do this without our physical presence there. Neither sensors or rely on others. With all due respect to censors and other people, we have to be there. We don't have to be a huge force. We just have sufficient force. Despite what you said, the families of the hostages and others feel that the Israeli ethos was destroyed, that Israel will do everything to bring hostages back. Hanin Danino, whose son was destroyed, told Yishai Cohen to tell you, we feel that not everything was done to bring them back home, and now that not everything is done to bring them home. We had very serious matters from people in the cabinet. I would, if you can address what the father of this hostage who was murdered, but there is not unity between the head of the idea. Can you guarantee not that you will not fire a Gallant? I am a son of a family that lost a son. I will not judge no father who lost his child, his son, or a sister, or children. I'm not in a position to judge them. I understand the pain. I'm in the agony. Who's not within a family cannot imagine it. I can, because I'm of such a family as well. First of all, we did not succeed, but we were very close, not close enough. And we're doing everything, and I'm committed to it. I'm working around the clock. I sleep, maybe to its secret to you, I sleep a couple of hours a night. I seek every way, any path to bring them back home. In the first deal, we brought some of them home. Now it's down to what, 100, 140? Maybe even more. And many of them alive. I insisted to bring back in the first deal more live. We are able to get more of them, and now I insist that as many of the live hostages be returned. We began with 12. I have to say, I don't see anything from Hamas. This, at least the arbitrators in between, I want to get more than 23. I'm fighting for this with all my heart. But I will not criticize the families of who lost a dear one, who feel differently. I was in that same position. regarding the Gallant. As long as there is trust, we can. One thing is important for trust: that all the ministers, without exception, have to be committed. And the minute a decision is made by the cabinet, all of them have to accept it. When will you have a governmental? After the war, I told you we will check to the end what exactly happened on October 7th. The most difficult question. There's a lot of disinformation on this that is outside. I was told that I had received forewarning of the October 7th. All of this is misinformation. So many lies, so much distortions. Sometimes 180%, 180 degrees of what was really said and done. I just heard Daphne asking, we have heard from people in a cabinet who said, the last thing I want to do is our soldiers who are fighting heroically, simply heroic, IDF, the people of the security forces, they're doing heroic work. All the speculation of what we will not be able to do this, and all warnings, you will not be able to get Khan Yunis, you will not be able to get to Rafiq, you will not be able to get the Philadelphia line, the price will be insufferable. So the IDF is doing heroic. The last thing I want the IDF to, while fighting the war, which has not been completed, and we have goals not just there. Every soldier will have to now have an attorney. We want them each to have an attorney at his side. We have to wait to the end of the war because we have great pressure not to do this right now. After the war, we'll decide how we're going to have an investigation, on when we're going to do this. It's a process that's in front of us. It will take place. There's no other way. It could not be. First of all, I also want a deal, no less than anyone else in Israel, maybe even more so. I want a deal. But the decision, what we do and how we'll do it, is in the hands of the government, as you know. This is a state that has a government and also an excellent military. But is the government makes the decisions, and also military, and also the security forces. And one has to go in accordance. I don't see any other way of doing it. I expect people to follow instructions and decisions of the government. This is my expectation, nothing else. 10 months after the war, both military suggesting to move forces to the north and to Judea and Samaria. At this stage, is not better to. Why do you think that it has to be recommended to me and I'm disagreeing? I can't say exactly opposite. People have to recommend to me, I don't want to protect Judea and Samaria and the north. I'm not going to tell. These are distorted statements all the time. It's an endless flood of misinformation, disinformation. It gives hope to our enemies. Enough. I'm managing this war, not as one person. The cabinet naturally has to approve it. But I do this responsibly, and I think I'm doing it in a wise manner, I believe. And the IDF give us the tools and all security apparatus to reach the goals. And I'm not giving up on any of them, not the north or the center.